Hi students, welcome to SPSVERSITY. In the previous session, we have discussed about breathing and exchange of gases. So in this session, we are going to discuss about locomotion and movement. So what is meant by locomotion and what is meant by movement? Okay. So movement of body parts and locomotion are two important properties of living organisms. Okay. If we take specifically animals, including human beings, they can move their body parts, limbs, jaws, eyelids, tongue, etc. So in this movement of body parts, which result in change of location or place of an organism, so such voluntary movement is called locomotion, like walking, running, climbing. So this all will change the location of an organism. Okay. For example, if we take eyelids, so eyelids will move in a particular place. They will not change the location or place of an organism. So here the movement of eyelids is not in locomotion. Okay, locomotion is where the change of place or location will take place. So when it comes to types of cellular movements, so there are three types of cellular movements: amoeboid movement, ciliary movement, and muscular movement. So amoeboid movement is seen in blood cells like macrophages and leukocytes, so which move by formation of pseudopodia. Okay. Whereas ciliary movement is seen in internal organs, which are lined by ciliated epithelium. So ciliated epithelium, they have locomotory structures, the cilia. And when you come to muscular movement, that is the muscles, which shows excitability, contractibility, extensibility, and elasticity. So amoeboid movement is due to the streaming of protoplasm, as like seen in amoeba. Okay. And when you come to ciliary movement, it is the movement of ovum through female reproductive system. Like when you take female reproductive system, the fallopian tube is lined by ciliated epithelium, so which will push the ovum towards the uterus. The muscle movement, that is the muscle movement, it may be like it is change in location, appearance, nature of regulation of activities. So these are three types of movements: amoeboid movement, ciliary movement, and muscular movement. So here we are specifically discussing about muscular movement, where muscles play an important role. So here muscles will play an important role. Like there are three types of muscles: skeletal muscles, visceral muscles, cardiac muscles. So skeletal muscles means which are associated with skeletal system, the bones of the body. Okay. And these skeletal muscles are cylindrical, which are unbranched and multinucleate. So they have many nuclei. They have many nuclei. Okay. So here, so these are skeletal muscles which are cylindrical. And on the surface they are showing stripes, striations. On the surface they are showing striations. So as they are showing striations, they are called striated muscles. And these skeletal muscles, they work under our will. That means they are voluntary. That means which work under our will. So that's why they are also called voluntary muscles. And they are involved in locomotion, that is change in body posture. Okay. So these skeletal muscles are having other names also, that is the striated muscles and voluntary muscles. So as they have striations, it is called striated muscles. As they are under our control, they are called voluntary muscles. And the next type of muscle is visceral muscle, which is present in the visceral organs, like surrounding the stomach. Okay. So here when you take these visceral muscles, they are spindle shaped. So which visceral muscle is spindle shaped, and they have only one nucleus. So they don't have striations. As they don't have striations, they are called non-striated muscles, or they are also called smooth muscles. So they are also called non-striated or smooth muscles, and they are not under our control. They are involuntary muscles. So visceral muscles are having other two names, that is they are also called as smooth muscles or non-striated muscles, or they are also called as involuntary muscles, which are associated with hollow visceral organs of the body like stomach. And when you come to cardiac muscles, so they are present in the walls of heart. Okay, so cardiac muscles, they are present in the walls of the heart. And these cardiac muscles are cylindrical. They are structurally cylindrical, and they show branching. So in the diagram we can see the branching. They show branching. And they have only one nucleus, uninucleate. Okay. And in this muscle fiber, that is in cardiac muscles, in muscle fibers, there is an unique one that is called intercalated disc. This intercalated disc. And these cardiac muscles are also involuntary. They are not under our will. Okay, they are not under our will. And they show striations. If you see the diagram, on the surface of cardiac muscles, there are striations. They come under striated muscles. So cardiac muscles are also striated muscles, involuntary, okay, which are present in the wall of heart, which will control the contraction and relaxation of heart. So the heart muscles, that is cardiac muscles, will cause the contraction and relaxation of heart. So during cardiac cycle, you can see a contraction relaxation of heart, so which is done by the cardiac muscles. So these are three types of muscles, that is skeletal muscles, visceral muscles, cardiac muscles. And here, as we are particularly discussing about the locomotion, that is displacement, so here we'll study about the skeletal muscles. Okay, why? Because skeletal muscles are associated with the movement, the locomotion, okay, which are associated with the skeletal system. So skeletal muscles are made up of muscle bundles. So their muscle bundles is also called fascicle. Okay. And there are many muscle bundles in a skeletal muscle. And these fascicles are held by fascia. Okay. So skeletal muscles are made up of fascicles, and each fascicle is made up of muscle fibers. Each fascicle is made up of muscle fibers, that is the myofibrils, so which are arranged in the form of filaments, so in the sarcoplasm. So they are arranged in the form of filaments in the sarcoplasm of muscle fiber. That is, sarcoplasm means the cytoplasm of muscle fiber is called sarcoplasm. So in sarcoplasm of muscle fiber, these filaments are arranged, that is, the myofibrils are present in the form of filaments in sarcoplasm of muscle fiber. And here when you come to the myofibrils, that is the filaments of muscle fiber, so there are light bands and there are dark bands which are thick and thin. So these light bands, they contain a protein called actin. So light bands contain a protein actin. Dark bands contain a protein myosin. So they are called actin filaments and myosin filaments. Okay, so light bands, that is, they are called actin filaments. As they are made up of a protein actin, they are called actin filaments. And the dark bands, that is the myosin filaments. So these actin and myosin filaments, okay, are arranged in a systematic way. So here if you take a muscle fiber, the center of actin fibers which are, that is, attached, it is called Z line. Okay, the center of actin lies in the elastic fiber called Z line. And the center of myosin which lies M line, it is myosin. Okay. And the portion of myofibril between two successive Z lines, it is called sarcomere. So it is called sarcomere. So sarcomere is the functional unit of skeletal muscle. So it is functional unit of skeletal muscle. Okay. So this sarcomere, which is functional unit of skeletal muscle, which has the actin filaments and myosin filaments. So here in this diagram, this is a skeletal muscle. So these are muscle bundles which are called fascicles. So which are called fascicles. Okay. And inside muscle bundles there are muscle fibers. So there are muscle fibers. Okay. So there are many muscle fibers. So inside the muscle fiber, So if you see this picture, there are actin filaments and myosin filaments. So these are made up of protein actin and these are made up of protein myosin. Okay. And to which the actin filaments are attached, it is Z line. Okay. On either side there are actin filaments. In between there are myosin filaments. Okay. That is the band where we can see that is from here to here, it is A band. A means anisotropic, where it includes both actin and myosin filaments. I band, I means isotropic, where it includes only actin filaments. In the center, that is in the center, only myosin filaments are present. It is called H zone. So in a sarcomere, these are the parts. These are actin filaments, these are myosin filaments. So the region from here to here, it is called A band, which is anisotropic. Here it is called isotropic. And here it is H zone, only where these myosin filaments are. And the part between two successive Z lines, it is called sarcomere. So which is called the functional unit of the skeletal muscle. So sarcomere is the functional unit of the skeletal muscle. Okay. So we have discussed in a skeletal muscle there are muscle bundles, fascicles, and inside muscle bundles, fascicles, there are, that is, the muscle fibers. And inside muscle fibers there are actin filaments and myosin filament. The thin filaments are called actin and the thick filaments are called myosin. So these actin and myosin are proteins which are contractile. Specifically, these proteins are contractile proteins which has the property of contraction. So we are going to discuss about in depth of the filaments, that is the actin filament and myosin filament. So when you take this actin filament, it is made up of three types of proteins. That is F-actin, tropomyosin and troponin. So here you can see this is the F-actin, which is made up of globular proteins. That is globular actins. And these globular actins are, that is, which are called with each other helically. Which are called each other helically. Okay. And next is the tropomyosin. So these thread-like structures, they are tropomyosin. Okay. And here and there are small spherical shaped structures which is called troponin, which are present in irregular intervals, which will attach to the tropomyosin. So what is the function of troponin is, it will mask the binding site of myosin. Okay. It will mask the binding site of the myosin. Okay. So it is unmasked during contraction of muscles. And next is structure of myosin protein. That is the myosin filament, which is made up of the monomeric proteins. The monomeric proteins are, they are called meromyosins. So they are called meromyosins. Okay. So the monomeric units are called meromyosins. So here when you take the myosin filament, it has two parts, that is head with short arm and a tail. So head and tail. The head region is called heavy myromyosin and the tail is called light myromyosin. Okay. So the heavy myromyosin component will project out of the surface of myromyosin. That is, it is called cross arm. So the short arm is called cross arm. This is head, this is cross arm, and this is tail. On the head there are two specific sites. One is actin binding site and another one is ATP binding site. So during contraction of proteins, ATP is required, that is energy is required, which will bind to this site, ATP binding site. Okay. So till now what we discussed is the structure of actin filament, the myosin filament and their monomeric units and different parts present in this. So now we'll discuss about the mechanism of muscle contraction, how it will take place. So to explain the mechanism of muscle contraction, a theory is proposed that is called sliding filament theory. So that is called sliding filament theory. Okay. So to explain the muscle contraction, this theory is proposed, that is sliding filament theory. So here, when a neural signal reaches the neuromuscular junction, that means when it gets a signal from nervous system to the junction where neurons will innervate to muscles, so it will release neurotransmitter. Due to release of neurotransmitter, it generates an action potential in the sarcolemma. Okay, due to this action potential, so what happens is it causes release of calcium ions. So action potential will lead to release of calcium ions from sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcoplasmic reticulum means the endoplasmic reticulum of the sarcomere. Okay. So they are released into this sarcoplasm. So what these calcium ions will do? These calcium ions will bind to troponin of active filaments. What will happen if they bind to this? They will remove the masking of active sites of myosin. So they will remove the masking of active sites of myosin. Okay. So this calcium ions will remove the active sites of, that is the actin filament. They will unmask the active sites of actin filament. Okay. So when the active site is unmasked, what will happen? The myosin head binds to the active sites. So the myosin head binds to active sites on actin to form a cross bridge. So for formation of this, energy is required, that is by hydrolysis of it. What is this energy is used? This energy is used to pull the actin filament towards center. So as a result, what happens is the jet line limiting the sarcomere are pulled closer together. Okay. Due to this, what happens is the shortening of sarcomere will take place, which is called nothing but the contraction of muscles. Which is called the contraction of muscles. So in this diagram, it is about the sliding filament theory, where here in the step 1 it is seen clearly the myosin head attaches to actin filament. where by utilizing one ATP. When ATP is utilized, it will form ADP and PI. And this myosin head which attaches to this actin filament, it will pull the actin filament towards center, that is towards A band. After this, the myosin head will lose contact with it, that is, it will get detached from actin filament. Okay. As it gets detached, the final step, that is fourth step, again actin filament will come to normal state. So in the second step, it is pulled towards A band, it is like this. Again it comes. So these are the 4 steps in sliding filament theory. These are the 4 steps in sliding filament theory. And here when you come to the muscle fiber, there are 2 types of muscle fiber. So one is red muscle and another one is white muscle. So red means the red muscle is rich in the content, that is myoglobin. So it is rich in myoglobin. And they also contain lot of mitochondria. As they contain lot of mitochondria, they perform aerobic respiration well. So that's why they are called aerobic muscles. They perform aerobic respiration. These are aerobic muscles. White muscle, which is the muscle fiber, which is white in color due to the presence of less kind of myoglobin. It is the less content of myoglobin. And they have less mitochondria also. So that's why these muscles will do anaerobic respiration. As they show anaerobic respiration, it is called anaerobic muscles. Anaerobic respiration means the respiration done without oxygen. So which is seen in white muscles which have less mitochondria. Okay. So till now we have discussed about the muscles, the different types of muscles, the skeletal system, its structure, and next we have discussed about the mechanism of muscle contraction, in which we discussed about sliding filament theory. So now we'll discuss about the skeletal system, so which is a framework of bones and cartilage. Okay. So skeletal system is a framework of bones, and these bones are joined by a connective tissue, that is cartilage. What this skeletal system will do? It will protect the vital organs like lungs, kidneys, heart, etc. They play an important role in movement and locomotion. And bones are rich in minerals like calcium and phosphate. They're rich in minerals like calcium and phosphate. So these are the functions of the bones present in skeletal system. So here when you come to division of skeletal system, it is basically divided into 2: axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. So axial skeleton means it has skull, vertebral column, sternum and ribs. Appendicular skeleton means the forelimb, the hind limb and the griddles, the pectoral griddle and pelvic griddle. Okay, first we'll discuss about skull, that is in axial skeleton. So skull has 2 sets of bones, that is one is cranial bones and facial bones. So cranial bones are 8 in number and facial bones are 14 in number. So cranial bones means which will cover that is the brain. And a single shaped U-shaped bone is called hyoid, which is present at the base of buccal cavity. Okay. Besides this cranial bones and the facial bones, in the middle ear, that is in each middle ear, there are 3 tiny bones. So they are called malleus, incus and stapes. Okay. So they are called malleus, incus and stapes. Collectively they are called ear ossicles. Okay. So this skull region will join with the superior region of vertebral column with the help of 2 occipital condyles. So the skull will attach to the vertebral column with the help of 2 occipital condyles. Okay, come to vertebral column. So vertebral column, which is made up of, that is the units of vertebrae, they are vertebral column, they are called vertebrae, which are 26 in number. So it extends from skull to the main framework of trunks. And in the hollow portion of vertebral column, there will be spinal cord. Okay. And in vertebral column, there are vertebrae. So depending upon the location, in the neck region, there are cervical vertebrae are 7 in number, thoracic 12, lumbar 5, sacral 1, coccygeal 1. Okay, there are cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, lumbar vertebrae, sacrum, coccyx. Okay. And next is in axial skeleton, that is ribs, that is the skull, the vertebral column and the ribs. So here you are seeing in the picture there are 12 pairs of ribs, which are flat bones. In these 12 pairs of ribs, the first 7 pairs of ribs, they are called true ribs. True ribs means they are attached to vertebral column dorsally and they are attached to sternum ventrally. Whereas when you come to 8, 9, 10th rib, they are called false ribs. They are called false ribs, which are attached to 7th rib. They don't directly attach to the sternum, which are attached to sternum. And when you take 11th and 12th, the ribs, which are not attached to sternum and ventrally, okay, they are called floating ribs. And there are 12 pairs of ribs. On the ventral side, there is a sternum, which is a triangular shaped bone to which the ribs are attached. This is sternum to which the ribs are attached on the ventral side. Okay. On the back, that is on dorsal side, there is a vertebral column. Okay. In ribs, there are that is true ribs, that is up to 7 pairs. The first 7 pairs, false, that is 8, 9, 10, and last 2, 11 and 12 are floating ribs. Okay. So these are the bones which are present in ribs. So follow us on social media, SPSVERSITY. So till now what we discussed is about axial skeleton, that is skull, vertebral column and the ribs. And now we are going to discuss about appendicular skeleton. In appendicular skeleton we will come across limbs and griddles. In limbs particularly, there are hands that are called forelimbs, and the legs we call as hind limbs. So each forelimb has 30 bones. So it starts from here, where it attaches to clavicle, that is the pectoral griddle. So here you can see, that is, if you start from the bones, humerus 1, radius ulna 1, 3. Corpels, 8. Metacarpals, 5. And phalanges, the figure, or the phalanges, that is 14. Total, if you count this one, we'll get 30 bones. And this is bones of lower limb, that is leg. This also consists of 30 bones. So where it attaches to the pelvic griddle. So this is pelvic griddle, to which the hind limbs attached. So the longer bone, that is femur, which has at the below this femur, there is tibia fibula, and there are dorsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. And beside this, there is a knee cap, that is a structure which will protect the knee. It is called knee cap. So this knee cap is called patella. So this knee cap is called patella. So these are the bones of the lower limb, that is hind limb. And these are pelvic griddle and pectoral griddle. So in pelvic griddle, the parts are ilium, ischium, and pubis. In pectoral griddle, they are the parts are the clavicle, acromion, cortical process, glenoid cavity, to which the four limbs are attached to this. Okay. So this is about the bones which are present in the appendicular skeleton and axial skeleton. And now we are going to discuss about the joints between two bones. So the joints are the point of contact between two or more bones, between a bone and a cartilage. It is called joint. Okay. So why we are specific about joints? It is joints are very essential for all types of movements, including bony parts in the body. So joints are. So here you can see the classification of joints. This one is fibrous joints. Okay, one is the fibrous joints. Another one cartilaginous joints, and the last one synovial joints. Okay. So here you can see fibrous joints which are present in skull. They don't allow any movement. Cartilaginous joints which will allow limited movement, that is joint between S and vertebrae. And finally, that is synovial joint, which is freely movable. Okay. And this synovial joints, based on their location and function, there are different types of joints. Ball and socket joint. Okay. It is ball and socket. Another one, hinge joint. Another one, pivot joint. Another one, gliding joint. And another one, saddle joint. Okay. So in synovial joints, there are subtypes: ball and socket, hinge, pivot, gliding, saddle. So ball and socket, it is present between humerus and the pectoral girdle, where we can rotate the hand in 360 degrees centigrade. Hinge joint, which is nothing but knee joint. Pivot joint, that is, which is nothing but the joint between atlas and the vertebrae. Gliding joint, which is present in corpels. Saddle joints, which is present between corpels and metacarpals of the thumb. So like this, there are different synovial joints. Here you can see the joints. The fibrous joint, which is present in skull. So these are fibrous joints which are present in skull. This is pivot joint which in the neck region, and this is ball and socket joint, and here it is ellipsoidal joint, and there is a saddle joint in the limbs, that is in the thumbs of limbs. Okay, this is saddle joint. In the knee joint, which is hinge joint, and there is joint femur and pelvic griddle which are fixed by this, that is ball and socket joint. So these are the different types of joints which are present in human body, which play an important role in movement. Okay. So till now we have discussed about the muscles, specifically skeletal muscle, and the bones which are associated with your bone. So now we are going to discuss about the disorders of muscular and skeletal system. One is myasthenia gravis. It is an autoimmune disorder where it will affect the neuromuscular junction, so that what happens is they become weak, fatigue, paralysis. Okay. It's a autoimmune disorder. And when we come to muscular dystrophy, so where the progressive degeneration of skeletal muscles will happen due to genetic disorder. And there is another one, tetany, where wild contractions of muscles due to low calcium, which is called tetany. So myasthenia gravis, muscular dystrophy, tetany, these are the disorders which are seen in muscular and skeletal system. And there is another one, that is arthritis, there is inflammation of joints. Next is osteoporosis, which is age-related characteristic, where in this the decreased bone mass will decrease and increase the chance of fractures. Another one is gout, where uric acid gets accumulated at joints. So it is called gout. Okay. So that's all about the locomotion movement. Thank you all. Follow us SPSVERSITY on social media. We'll meet again in the next session.